everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where we'll be taking a look at recycling and how to engage and attract new customers. My name is Kenneth, and I look after the Waste Management Group here at 2 Degrees. I'm delighted to welcome our presenter today, Robert McKenzie of Green Oak Solutions. Both have experience in helping organisations deliver improvements in environmental performance and business sustainability in the areas of waste management and recycling. Today's session will last for around 45 minutes, which leaves us with 10 minutes for questions at the end. Before we begin, I'd just like to remind everyone that you can submit questions at the webinar using the Q&A box on the bottom right hand of the side of the screen. Just type in your question and press send, and we'll wait till the end before answering as many as we can. If you should have any technical issues during the presentation, please use the chat box on the bottom right hand side to send me a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So, without further delay, we have a technical hitch at the moment. Just bear with me. I'm waiting for Robert to dial back in.
Stephen, I'm here.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Now hand over to Robert, and he'll take us through today's presentation. So, Robert.
So, have you given me the presenter privilege?
So you've now got the presenter right.
Stephen. Okay, thanks for the introduction, Stephen. Before we begin, I'll just I'll give you some background on Green Oak. Basically, we are in the business of providing tools that help local authorities and waste management companies and agencies automate reporting and have improvements in recycling rates through better use of data. But in today's webinar, I wanted to focus on taking a different tact and potentially give you some tools and strategies that you can use to help engage and attract new customers. So, some of the things that we're going to be looking at today, Stephen, I'm just trying to advance the slides here. Hold on 1 second, folks. Okay. So, I doubt to be able to advance. Oh, here we go. Okay. Right. I seem to have got over that small technical hitch. Yeah. So the title of this presentation is how to attract and engage new clients during the economic winter, and that last part will become apparent as we get into the presentation here. So, just in terms of the agenda, I maybe give one view on the potential economic climate in the years ahead, and what we can be preparing for, and then basically looking at give some tools to better understand your market and build your core story. So we'll spend a bit of time looking at that, and then we'll look at the 8 months of inbound marketing. So basically some tools that you can use to drive prospective clients to your website and convert them. Really, I'll list out some resources that can help you. So, in terms of setting the scene here, many of you will be familiar with the term baby boomer generation. And for those of you who are not, the baby boomer generation was basically the biggest generation in history. So there was a birth explosion after the Second World War between 46 and 64. So, what's that got to do with me? You're saying, well, the economist called Harvey Dent. Now he was an economic advisor, I think, to the first Bush administration, but hold that against him. But spent most of his career looking at the relationship between demographics and economics. And one of the things that he's discovered is that people, as we move through our life, we've got different levels of spending, and people tend to have their spending years between the ages of about 46 and 50. Their kids are potentially going to college and university, they're buying new cars, or maybe moving to their second home. So the interesting thing about this is, if you that bus curve that we looked at, and you lag it by 46 years, that will give you in theory, will give you a view of a spending curve through time. So looking at here is, in the red region here, you've got birth lagged for family spending. And overlaid on that is actually the Dow Jones the Jones index, and you can see that they're pretty well in sync. So Harry Dent's thesis is that obviously economics and GDP in particular intrinsically linked to demographics and peak spending. As you can see, so the important point about this is, if you buy into that argument, then it basically says that we're looking at 2020, 2023 before we start to come out of this recession that we're in at the moment. Now, I mean, obviously, the Obama administration and in the UK over recent years, we've been putting a lot of money into quantitative easing to try and delay the effects of this bubble. But anyway, enough said about that. So that's really just setting the scene. So back in with cheery thought, what can we actually do to minimise the impacts on our business and attract and engage new customers? Okay, well, first and foremost, I just wanted to talk about the whole theory of sales pitch and the kind of basic Ben Franklin clauses and classic salesmanship. I mean, my view is that in many ways, type of selling has had its day, and now we're really in an environment where we have to look at adding value to our customers. So really that's going to be the thrust of this presentation, new ways in which you can add value to your customers. So before we start, there's some key questions that you should ask. First of all, what does your business do? And you say, well, we're a waste management business, but you need to really look at this from the context of your customer and the benefits and value that you're adding to their business. So, the second question really is what does your business really do? Also look at who is selling to, and then the ways in which you can add value. So, in terms of who you're actually selling to, according to this guy, Chet Holmes, a well-known sales strategist, and now he died last year, but I would urge you to him up and get a hold of his big ultimate sales machine. But one of the things that pointed out was that at any one time there's actually a potential buyer pyramid. The way that breaks down is that at any one time only about 3% of your audience is actually in the market for your product services. Another 7% are particularly open to your products and services, but they're not buying at the moment. And then the rest are in various stages or levels of disinterest, if you like. So, with that in mind, we need to understand that acting and engaging customers, it's a marathon and sprint, and you need to be. If I just back up a second, you need to be thinking about how you can engage this 90% of people who are not buying at the moment, basically that when ready to buy, they think of your company. So back to that question about what does your business do? Depending upon the audience here, you may say, well, we're a waste management company. If you're in the 90% who's listening to that pitch, then you're leaving. So a big question is, what does your business really do? Well, I express that in terms of the benefits that you're giving to your potential customers. So in this case, you could say we are local authority partners to deliver upon a zero waste strategy by delivering continuous and measurable improvements in recycling rates, trade and investment in new technologies, from education programs to householders and businesses on waste avoidance, and taking shared ownership of unfilled tax burden. All of a sudden that's a more compelling, and that particularly provides a platform on which to easily launch all of your sales and marketing strategies, opposed to the very outward focusing. We're a waste management company. Another example is from an IT disposal perspective. I won't go through that, but you get the idea. So the next thing to look at is who are you selling to, and I'm going to get over this example, and we'll look at the example of a waste recycling company. So in the case of the local authority, well, it'll be the waste manager or potential head of service. And there's an important distinction here. The waste manager obviously is a key person in the decision-making process, but and they've got the ability to say no, but they're probably the budget holder. And really, I'd argue you want to be engaged with the person who can write checks. So, in terms of use the term UP, or we have done from time to time. I would offer another distinction here, in that your selling points it tends to be inwardly focused on you and your business, and not necessarily the bits that you're delivering to your clients. So a better way to think about it is what's the ultimate strategic position that you can improve the lives of your customers and deliver benefits to them. So wrapping that up in the core story. Our core story is basically something that should flow through all your marketing and sales, collateral and strategies. So it should be clear on your website, on your brochures, and presentations that you give. Basically everything that you're doing, and you focus on using data and not product data. I mean, again, product data is all about features, and customers are not interested in features; they're interested in benefits, efficiency improvements, competitive advantages. So, and the other points about the course is clearly it should clearly outline the value to your client, but it should also be loaded with values, so it should identify the pain points for them and accentuate those pain points, and then at some stage present your solution in terms of how you can alleviate that. So, I mean, a core story should have a compelling title. So, in terms of your marketing and strategy, moving away from the most advanced waste recycling processes in the UK to particularly a core story based upon the 5 toughest waste challenges facing local authorities today, or potentially 3 innovations that will reduce your landfill tax bill by 50%. So you get the idea. It's much more compelling for the potential client. Another one in terms of recycling, but I'll just skip over that. So how do we, we've built a core story. How do we use technology to start to attract and engage customers? Look at inbound marketing, which is essentially a version of online marketing. This slide is just showing you the decline of print advertising versus the increase in online marketing. And slide. So what's the definition of inbound marketing? Well, it's a process of, according to HubSpot, it's a process of using content, media, search engine optimization, email, lead nurturing, and marketing automation to attract and retain customers. So some stats about inbound marketing. I mean, HubSpot is 60. Marketing costs 61% less per lead than the traditional outbound marketing and advertising. And in terms of the conversion of those leads, you can see that it would appear to be much more effective. So this is your traditional outbound marketing here at 2%, and you've got flavors of inbound marketing that have much higher conversion rates. And then, not least, pretty obvious fact these days, but worth highlighting, is that most people are researching products and services online. So, given that that's the case, what do we have to do in terms of our online strategy to minimize our visits, leads, and conversions? We're going to look at 8 inbound marketing musts. So first of all, we'll kick off looking at keyword strategy for how you optimize your website. We'll just touch upon some of these, and we'll deeper dive into other points. It's clearly kind of limited in time, but we'll spend a bit of time looking at creating blogs, how you create blogs and content. We'll talk about social media, conversion strategies, and then how you nurture leads once someone commits on an offer. We'll talk a little bit about mobile and tablets. And finally, we'll just tie up by looking at measuring and refining the process. So the first point here is keywords. What's a keyword? Well, keywords or key phrases are the search terms used on the internet. It's what your customers are searching for. So how do you create a keyword strategy? Well, I recommend that you select 3 to 5 keywords for your service, and the way you would choose them is Google and Spot. I should qualify some of this stuff. Let me just spend a second doing that. Over the past year, we've been using an outbound marketing platform called HubSpot, which has been tremendously beneficial for us. It's enabled us to increase our website visits and leads by 400%, and I'll show you that in the presentation. But HubSpot has a keyword tool within it. But as Google have a keyword tool that you can use for free, and you should do initially when you're looking at this is to use your keywords based upon difficulty or relevance. So clearly they need to be relevant to the services that you're offering. But in terms of HubSpot, for example, they grade keywords from 0 to 100, 100 being the most difficult. So their advice is that initially you should focus on keywords that have got a low difficulty, under 40 typically, and then you start getting some traction for those keywords. Look at higher ranking keywords, maybe between 40 and 70. And then once you've selected your keywords, then the trick is to design and optimize your website around those keywords. Selecting them, you putting yourself in your customer's shoes. What would they be searching for? And consistency. So using them throughout your website, throughout your landing pages, in the alt text of your images, and so on and so forth. And then finally, they should be specific and targeted. And that's particularly relevant if you are embarking upon pay-per-click campaigns. You can burn a lot of money, and we've done that in the past by attracting, selecting the wrong keywords and attracting people that are really interested in buying your service. So I mentioned Google has a keyword tool, and you can find that. I think if you just search keyword tool, you'll find it. Oh, so once you've established your initial keywords, you look at ways in which you can improve your rankings for those keywords, and there's two main ways of optimizing your website. There's on-page search engine optimization, and that's really what we're going to focus on here, and that's basically making sure that your keywords appear in the right place, that your pages are optimized, etc. There's off-page search engine optimization, and that's really measure of your authority on the internet. So, how many other authoritative sites are linking to you. Now, to get a direct measure of how well your website's performing, HubSpot have a tool called Marketing Grader. You can basically put in either of these two links. It'll offer your name, I think, or your email address and your URL, and you put that in, and it'll bring back a very detailed report on your overall website effectiveness score, how you're performing in terms of top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel lead conversion. It's worth taking a look at. So, if we look at the different elements of on-page optimization, so we're going to go through. There's 10 different elements I've listed here. We're going to just go through a few of these in this presentation, and there are ways that you can look at improving. So the first one is a page title. So your page title again should be should include your keyword, the main keywords that you're trying to rank for. So if you look at our site here, your page title pops up on a tab here, and clearly recycling software is one of the keywords that we're trying to rank for. The page title should be less than 70 characters long. Okay. So you should include keywords as close as possible to the beginning of the page title. It's readable and not gobbledygook. And if you're including your company name, put it at the end of the title. And use different titles for each page. You want to try and make sure that as many of your pages on your site are ranking as possible. And each one of those is a keyword opportunity, potential keyword opportunity. In terms of metadata and meta description, well, metadata is typically the link in blue. When you saw something on Google, and then the description is the sound bite underneath your company URL. There's no effect on SEO from either of these two, but the main thing about metadata and meta descriptions is relevance. It should tell the potential customer exactly what you do, and it should leave them in no doubt about that. Headings. Now, in the HTML source code of your site, headings are identified using these tags. So H1, H2, H3, etc. These are more likely to be interpreted by search engines as keywords than the text and the rest of the page. So they're clearly very important, and it's important that you got your keywords in your headings wherever possible. So an example from our site is here, where we've got some keywords in our headings. Images. So the conventional wisdom on images is not to use too many of them for a couple of reasons. The search engines can't see them. It's no direct SEO benefit. Sites that have a lot of images tend to load slower. Tend to be slower. But the image I've got, there's an alt text, and you make sure that the alt text for images on your site relevant keywords. Okay, so this is an example of how we load images onto our site using the HubSpot tool. So some other tips, just domain info. Again, Google prefers it if your email is registered for a long period of time and it's not coming up for expiry. It needs to indicate some level of commitment, and it's less likely the site is a spam site. And you want Google and the other search engine spiders to crawl your site. That basically means process your site often as possible. And the best way of doing that is making sure that you put new and fresh content up as soon as possible. So on that point, one way of making sure that your site is living and breathing and that you're adding fresh content is to create and maintain a blog. A number of different blogging tools out there. If you don't have one, built into your website. There's WordPress is probably the most famous one. There's Blogger, Typepad, etc. I mean, again, we use HubSpot, and HubSpot has a built-in blogging tool which is wizard driven and helps you optimize your blog for SEO purposes. But some points shouldn't be promotional. So again, the same as your core story, it should be of value to your customer. Okay, so and some key components of great blogs. The title should be attention grabbing. You need to, if you're putting content out there on the web, you want it to be read. So you should be as inventive as you can be. You want to stand out, be well written and formatted, and it's providing the reader with something of value. It should include images or put a video wherever possible. And you want to again capitalise on your SEO opportunities. Potentially link it to other blogs that you've written, or to other blogs that are relevant. And finally, you should always have a call to action in your blog. You want to use that opportunity to give your potential customer ways with to stay engaged with you. And there's an example of a blog post that we wrote. Obviously, instead of trying to stand out and capture attention. So it was a bit gimmicky, but there was actually something of value allegedly in the post. Social media, a lot about social media. It's becoming increasingly important for business. In particular, Twitter and LinkedIn are strong B2B tools or become very strong B2B tools for business, and different ways in which you can leverage these tools. In terms of your website or your content, I would urge you to put social share buttons wherever you can, and these are these buttons. So you should have these, on every page of your website, just to make it easy for people to connect with you. An interesting feature of social media, and particularly Twitter, is the concept of social listening. So what you can do is you can, there's some tools out there. There's some free tools. Again, HubSpot incorporates this tool, but you can put in keywords, or in the case of Twitter, they call them hashtags, that you're listening for. And for example, it could be waste management, technology. It might be waste management contracts, or it could be the names of your competitors. And these tools will basically log posts in which these terms appear. You can obviously use that as a way of keeping tabs on what's happening with your industry and your competitors. In terms of a social strategy, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but if you check out this website, Claire Diaz Ortiz, she works for Twitter, and you may not have seen her in the news a couple months ago when she got she was the person that took the Pope to use Twitter. I'm not sure if that's got anything to do with these subsequent resignation, but hopefully not. Okay, so once you optimize, once you've established your keywords, you've optimized your site. How do you go about and you've got people visiting your site? How do you go about converting that traffic into leads? Well, basically the first thing you need to do is to create an offer. So that offer should be linked to your core story. So now that might be, for example, it might be white paper. It might be a video. It might be of a trial of your services. Whatever it is, it's something that's of value to your potential customer. So you create the offer and then create what's known as a call to action. And a call to action is simply eye-catching graphic on that you put on your website pages. You potentially put it in your email. You put it in your email campaigns. You put it in your blog posts, and it's something that advertises that offer that the potential client can click upon. The call to action should then link to a landing page. We again outline the benefits of the offer to your potential client, along with a form where they can leave their details so you can contact them. Finally, we would recommend that your landing page to a thank you page. So the other thing about a landing page I should highlight is a landing page is often called squeeze pages because they don't have any navigation on them. So there's one thing that the client can do. They can either read it and other details, or they can close the page. A thank you page is a way of giving a way of returning navigation to the visitor, so they can then continue to explore your website. And as I said, the call to action should be embedded in various content and emails and videos, etc. Can that traffic into leads? Again, the content needs to be valuable, original, and engaging, and it needs to make you stand out. So the various offers and levels of offers. I don't have a lot of time to go into this, but typically, what you refer to as top of the funnel offers are things like white papers, how to post potentially checklists that some level of value to your potential clients. Middle of the funnel offers are more related to your product or service. So, for example, a demonstration video or a brochure. And then the funnel offers are engaged yet. So, for example, it could be a trial of the service. It's more engaged. So, what does the action look like? So, this is an example of one from our website. So, we've got a local authority waste assessment tool called Waste Buddy. So, the graph look like that. That would be linked to a landing page here, which outlines the benefit to the client and form for them to leave their details. Okay, so moving on. Once a client has converted on an offer, then you want to make sure that you're continuing engage with that client. And one way to do that is through a process known as lead nurturing. And eventually, lead nurturing is a way of continuing the conversation with the client. So there's those called autoresponders. Again, there's some free ones out there on the web. But again, HubSpot has a lead nurturing tool where you essentially set up a schedule of emails to go out to your client for a period of months. So, they click on the offer, and then 5 days later you send them a follow-up email that again provides them with some value. So it's just a way of keeping the client engaged. Again, the whole premise is here that you should always add value. So, we're increasingly moving to a mobile world, and it means obviously that our own strategy needs to encompass things like iPhones and iPads and other tablet devices. So, one think about in terms of your website. You want to make sure that your website is designed or optimized for mobile, and that's referred to as responsive design. And again, that your content can be accessible on mobile devices as well. Wrapping up on these 8 months, the final one is to continue to measure and refine. And Google Analytics will give you great stats on how your website is performing in terms of your number of visitors, number of conversions. HubSpot similarly has great analytics that allow you to focus on areas that you need to improve upon. The other thing that we do is we have an own marketing strategy that involves creating content, creating blogs, tweeting, email campaigns, and we have a simple Excel tracker that's to monitor our performance. So, up here in terms of some resources, I've mentioned HubSpot quite a bit throughout the presentation. worth taking a look at, particularly the marketing grader tool. I would urge you to look at that. And again, Holmes' book, in terms of for those of you who want to better articulate your value proposition and build a core story, take a look at his book. You can get it on Amazon. Clear DRTs for social marketing, and then for you that are interested in tech trends, Scott Busky has a website called Feature Point of View. So, I mean, just to wrap up on this stuff, but to prove that this really works, this shows you, this graph shows you visits to our website, to the Green Oak website, over the last 12 months. So, you can see here that we started off with about 250 visits back in January last year, and we've increased that by 400 to 500% over last year. So it really works, and there's a similar curve that for our leads as well. Just a couple of things. Here's a sales part, but hopefully adding value. We're about to launch a tool called Waste Note that basically helps local authorities to improve their recycling rates by better use of data, and you can find out some more information on Waste Note at the link at the bottom of the page. Just to wrap up, I know that historically the waste industry has been, I say, resistant to technology, but I don't know who Ross Schaffer is, but I like the comment: if you don't like change, you're going to hate extinction even more. Okay, thanks for that, folks. Steve, I'll hand it back over to you, and maybe we can take some questions.
Thank you very much, Robert. That was a really interesting overview there, and I know you've got lots more to say. So anyone interested should definitely follow up with Robert. But we'll go to the question and answer session now. And so we've got a couple of questions coming around the whole sort of social media area. So someone's asking sort of how regularly should you be tweeting, writing blog posts? So is it only you have something new to say, or should you be doing it on a regular basis just to sort of maintain exposure? And sort of added to that question also, are there certain times of day when you should be looking particularly to send out tweets, LinkedIn updates, that type of thing? So Robert, have you got some sort of thoughts around that?
I can give you some insight onto that, guy. If we take the blog point initially, because it's quite an easy one, it's quite an interesting one actually. That I read that it basically says that if you are blogging as commonly as times a month, then you can increase site visits by 40%. Now, again, I think that's Hubble that did the research on that. So now we don't, as a company, we don't blog anything like that. I think we try and do 3 to 4 posts a month, but it's blogging recognised at the moment has been the single biggest way to influence your website visits and traffic. Now that's only half the story, clearly, because you want to make sure that you're attracting the right kind of visitors. In terms of social media, tweeting and LinkedIn, we're relatively new to tweeting. We've started doing it in anger probably about 5 months ago, 2 or 6 months ago. What the advice I would give is that, again, like blogging and like content, you should be tweeting as often as you can, but you want to keep it relevant to your prospective clients. If you're tempted to, typically when you start tweeting, it's you're going to just be retweeting. You're going to be tweeting means that you tweet someone else's post again, someone who's already put a post out. You're doing that. You'll be retweeting stuff that's relevant to your prospective client. When you should do that, again, just put yourself in your customer views. The thing about Twitter in particular, not so much LinkedIn, but Twitter is a real-time medium. So the client is following a lot of people on Twitter, and you tweet, for example, at 3 o'clock or sometime in the middle of the day. Unless they're listening for the hashtags that you're tweeting, then they may not see your tweet. So I would recommend that you try and tweet between 7:30 and maybe 9:30 in the morning, where people are getting into the office, they're sitting down with a cup of coffee, and then again towards the end of the day, maybe when they're about to leave office, and the same for LinkedIn as well.
Thanks, Rob. It is sort of those commuting hours, isn't it, where people quite often get the chance to scroll through their tweets and reply to them.
Stephen, could you repeat that?
It is quite often through the sort of commuting to the day when people are sort of sat down with their mobiles, when they sort of start scrolling through and reading tweets and that type of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the key thing to remember, again, just like blogging, is that we're bombarded these days with so much information. So it's when you're tweeting, your tweet needs to be compelling and it to be read.
Mm-hmm. Great. Another question we've got here is you mentioned early on in the presentation about using market data, and also using this to sort of to give you an advantage. Can you give examples of that, and also where you might get that type of data from?
Sure. Let me give you one that we've been looking at recently. Local authority recycling rates, for example. DEFRA publish authority recycling rates. If you dig on their site, then you'll be able to find out how your prospective local authority client is performing. You'll be able to break that down into, for example, household waste, industrial and chemical waste, industrial and commercial waste, potentially lower levels. So, if your prospective local authority client, for example, has a terrible or has a poor recycling rate on, for example, industrial, then it'd be that you have a service or a product that can meet that requirement. An example example from the into the WE and IT asset recycling space would be data breaches. Where you've got on the number of data breaches in the UK. The sum of those data breaches, whether it was, for example, drives on notebooks go missing, and then consequences in terms of the penalties that those organisations paid in terms of fines or potentially criminal penalties. So that's the kind of that's market data. Where you're appealing to the issues and the challenges that your potential client has. Okay.
Great, thank you, Robert. So I'm conscious of time, but I think we've probably got enough for just one more question.
Sure.
And, that is, do you have any tips for opening up dialogue with the budget holder? Because that's what you mentioned earlier on, that that's the best person to get to. And do you be going via for example, the waste manager when you're trying to do that? Do you have any sort of pointers around that, Robert?
Yeah, I can. I'll give you a couple, Stephen. There's in terms of using core stories. Way that we've done that, they've been successful in the past. And you have to be careful here because some of this won't translate to local government. But what we do is we use print direct mailing. Direct mailing, and actually, although it's dated and it's associated with junk mail days, it can actually be quite an effective tool. Basically, if you write a brief letter on your value proposition and you accompany it with a small gift that is of value again to your client, and it's not something that they're immediately going to throw in the bin, then you repeat that process over several months, and follow that up with a phone call, and then you'll find that accessing the budget holder is much easier. The other thing that I would say, Stephen, is back to the point of this being a marathon and not a sprint, is that you need to really do a lot of research and understand who the buyer is. So who are they? What conferences do they attend? Do they give do presentations at RWM, at LARAC conferences? Just understanding them, doing a lot of research on them, and to be honest, stalking them, and then just building up the ways information on them.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Robert. So that's all we've got time for now, but I'd like to thank Robert for his time today and also for getting through so many questions. And also thank you to everyone who's joined us for this webinar.
The only other thing I would say is that if anybody wants to contact me directly and we can discuss these techniques and strategies in a bit more detail, I would be happy to do that. It's easier to do it on a phone call where we're not limited for time.
Sure. Thank you, Robert. So we'll send out a recording of the webinar and the presentation slides later on today, and it will be archived on the 2 Degrees platform. So interesting and useful, and that you'll be able to join us for further webinars in the coming weeks. So thank you.
Thanks, Steve.